Assalamu alaikum, namaste, sat sri akal and good day. You are listening to Awaz Community Radio. If I could greet you in Gallifreyan, I would do, but I'm afraid I don't know Gallifreyan. And why Gallifreyan? Because this show is all about Doctor Who. So if you'd like to get in touch with us and you haven't got a TARDIS to come back in time and chat, do ring us 839 7857, email us awazradio@hotmail.com. You can log on to our website www.awazcommunityradio.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, it's Awaz Community Radio, and also we're on Twitter, tweet away to Awaz Radio 122. Thank you for listening to Awaz Community Radio. Now, we did invite Peter Capaldi, the 12th Doctor, onto the show. I'm afraid he's a little bit busy at the moment, but he did send a rather young fan into the studio. So, thank you for coming in, Mohammed.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for saying yes to coming.
You're welcome.
That's great. So, you would like to talk to us about Doctor Who. So, would you say you're a big fan or a little bit of a fan?
Biggest fan in the world.
The biggest in the world, really?
Yep.
So what makes you the biggest fan in the world?
First of all, I've got a lot of things from Doctor Who.
You got a lot of things?
Such as the sonic screwdriver and 2 of the TARDISes.
You have 2 TARDISes?
Yep, but they're toys.
Oh, right, so they're not
and
real
the sonic
TARDISes.
screwdriver's a toy.
Ah, so you don't got real ones then?
No, sadly.
Ah, that is a shame. So when did you first start watching Doctor Who?
About when it first started in 2005.
You mean New Who?
That's what I mean, yes.
But it wasn't new for you. Well, it was new for you.
It's quite new for me, yeah.
So what did you make of Doctor Who in 2005? Who was the Doctor in 2005?
Christopher Eccleston. But I didn't really make of him because I was only 1 year old. So
That could have been difficult then to really have an impression of him.
yeah, it was difficult.
So, who would you say is your favourite Doctor? So, how many Doctors have you seen on TV?
I've seen all 11 for a start.
You've seen all 11?
Oh, I remember watching I remember the first 3. I've seen the 4th. I've seen the 5th. I've seen every single one.
Right. So, shall we talk to our listeners a little bit more about the background of Doctor Who? So, like I said, in 2005, it was restarted. And do you remember which year it first started, Mohammed?
1963.
That's right. And it was the 50th anniversary last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember going to cinema to watch it. Brilliant.
You must have a really lovely mother who took you to the cinema.
And I recorded it on my TV.
Oh, right. So
I loved it. And my mum loved it so many times. She watched it again and again.
Well, I agree with her. I think it's a really great episode, that one, the 50th one.
Yeah, so do I.
So, Mohammed, shall we talk a little bit about, going back to 1963, who was the first Doctor?
William Hartnell.
And what was he like? What was William Hartnell like?
Old. He had a grumpy side.
Can I just state for our listeners that William Hartnell was in his 50s when he was the first Doctor, and 9-year-old Mohammed is calling him old.
He's quite grumpy. But I remember William Hartnell passed away in the 5 Doctors, so they used a different. They had a man called Richard Herndale to play the first Doctor.
So that was an episode further down the line.
That was
for
in
the 5
1983, and
Doctors.
William Hartnell passed in 1975, which is the reason he didn't come in the 3 Doctors' 10th anniversary.
Right. So we had the first Doctor, William Hartnell. So what happened to him, how did we have a second doctor? What's the process called between doctors?
Regeneration.
So what is regeneration?
It's where a Time Lord can change their body.
So-
Even though they do regenerate, it feels like dying.
So they look different.
But I could say the second Doctor looked much younger. And was much younger. I like to play the recorder. And was a clown.
So who played the second doctor?
Patrick Troughton.
Right. And can you name all the doctors in order?
William Hartnell, Patrick Troughton, John Pertwee, Tom Baker, Peter Davison, Richard Herndale, who was the first Doctor in the 5 Doctors, Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy, Paul McGann, John Hurt, Christopher Eccleston, David Tennant, Matt Smith, and Peter Capaldi, who's not even started yet.
So Doctor Who has been going for...
51 years this year.
And they've had 12 doctors? Well, this will be the 12th Doctor.
Well, it could be, the 13th Doctor if you count in John Hurt.
So what is John Hurt's official title? He's not counted as a doctor, is he? What is he?
The War Doctor.
And who was the War Doctor?
The Doctor who fought in the Time War.
And what was the Time War?
A war to end all wars. That took hundreds of years between Time Lords and Daleks.
So you really love your Doctor Who, don't you? You really do.
Yeah.
You know about the history of it. So if you could be any doctor, which doctor would you be and why?
10th Doctor because he's funny and sarcastic.
The 10th one was David Tennant.
Yes. I didn't think that Time War would end because the Time Lord made a rubbish decision when they sentenced the Master to death for peace with the Daleks.
The Master.
Yeah, the Master.
So who is the Master?
The Doctor's friend at first, who
Right.
was a Time Lord, looked in the Untumber Schism and looked through all the time and space and became evil.
So he's like the Doctor, but the sort of more evil version.
Yeah, it's like the Doctor's dark side. It'll be the Doctor if the Doctor chose to be him.
I think we've forgotten to actually mention to our listeners who are not that familiar with Doctor Who. So the Doctor isn't human, is he?
He's Time Lord. 2
Right.
hearts.
So he's a Time Lord, which is an alien race, and they have 2 hearts.
The greatest race in history.
Ah, is that what they're described as?
Strongest. They've got all the weapons. The moment that is the Galaxy Eater.
So if you could choose to be any companion, which one would you be and why?
Sarah Jane Smith, definitely. She appeared loads of episodes. They said Karen Gillan appeared in more, but I think Elizabeth Sladen put in more.
You'd like Sarah Jane Smith the most?
And she did even a spin-off series of K9 and Co. K9 and Sarah Jane Adventures, which she had 5 series of.
So who's K9?
K9 is the metal dog, which the Doctor's made, I think, about 5 versions,
Right.
2 of which he gave to Sarah Jane Smith.
Right. So what is it about Sarah Jane that you like?
She's not that type of girl who would scream and run away, although she does that sometimes. She's there.
That's part of the job, isn't it? If you're with the Doctor.
She's just a journalist, and she had a big genetic computer in her wall. She's that clever. She created it. She didn't create K9, however, but she's even got her own sonic device disguised as lipstick.
So you like her because she's clever, she's very smart, and she's very loyal to the Doctor, isn't she? She carries on doing work for the Doctor.
And I remember in the episode, Goodbye Sarah Jane Smith, she said she feels old. She's old, she should retire. But then I'm thinking, how do you think the Doctor feels when he's over 1,000 years old?
Ah, yes, that's true, because the Doctor keeps regenerating, so he's getting older and older, isn't he? Although he doesn't look older.
He looks sometimes younger.
Have you noticed that?
He gets younger. William Hartnell to Matt Smith. Look at the difference.
The last few generations, he's been getting younger.
David Tennant did look young, despite his age of 43 years old.
Can't believe you just called 43 old. But anyhow, moving on. Right, so Peter Capaldi's the next one coming in. What are your feelings on Peter Capaldi? Are you disappointed? Are you pleased?
I was disappointed at first because they never knew who in this guy was. When I saw a flashback at Fires of Pompeii, that guy rang a bell.
He did. You remember that he was a previous character. He was Caecilius in Fires of Pompeii. He was good in that, wasn't he?
But he was like Karen Gillan appeared in Fires of Pompeii when she was a.
Karen Gillan was the assistant that Matt Smith had, and her character's name was Amy Pond.
And also a soothsayer in the Fires of Pompeii.
Right. Now, do you know what? I'm wondering how they're going to get around that in the new series. I'm sure it'll get addressed. I'm wondering how Stephen Moffat, who makes the show, how he will address that issue, that the Doctor now looks like someone he's actually met in the past. I wonder how they're going to, wrap that one up.
Things are different. I mean, Martha, she was not, her management was not the first, didn't act first as Martha. She first acted as Adiola.
Yes, and she was. So she was in the background as one of the characters. I remember they pretended that was her cousin who died in the previous series. Cousins. They were not twin cousins. They were cousins that looked very alike.
Who played by the same actor. But Colin Baker, before he came the Doctor, he was Axel in a Fifth Doctor's episode. However, them two were not related because Axel was a human.
Right. So there's a bit of a precedent then. That it does often happen that someone played one character and they come back again as another one.
David Troughton, the son of Patrick Troughton, was once in an episode of Some Doctor in Classic Who, and then he returned in Midnight.
Oh, right. So there you go. That's another example. Right, so you've told me who your favourite Doctor is. That's David Tennant. Your favourite assistant was Elizabeth Sladen.
My favourite series was... Third Doctor is brilliant. My favourite series was Series 3 in New Who. Because Sound of the Drums, Utopia...
So that was the one where he had Martha as his assistant.
And Captain Jack, who's thrown back in his life.
Oh, right, yes. Captain Jack was in that too. He does have male assistants as well, doesn't he? Male companions as well as female.
What's funny is Doctor Who is now on its 4th Doctor in New Who.
Right.
And they've gained on Series 8. It took 3 Doctors in Classic Who to get on Series 8.
Right. So do you think Doctors these days don't spend enough time in the role? Would you like to see them spending more than a few years? Because so we had Christopher Eccleston, who was the Doctor. He played the Doctor.
He should have spent more longer. He could have spent more longer.
He should have been. He was on for 1 year, 1 season. Then you had David Tennant for 4 years.
He had 5 years. That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Right. So David Tennant's done his bit. Well done, David.
Matt Smith, he could have done about 4 or 5 years rather than 3.
It was 4 years, wasn't it?
No, it was 2013.
Oh, right, okay. So you wish he'd stayed longer then?
Yeah.
So what would you like Peter Capaldi to do? How long do you think that he should, carry on in the role?
Well, he starts in this 2014. So he could do it to 2019. That's his choice, but I mainly like him to do it. I was going to say 2015, but that'd be crazy. That'd be only 1 year. So I'd like him to do 2017, 2018.
Right, so you definitely don't want to see Peter Capaldi regenerating for a while, do you?
No.
So do you want to talk a little bit about the regenerations?
Definitely. So, the first Doctor, he faced the Cybermen, and then he started to collapse in the TARDIS and regenerate. In them times, they didn't have CGI much, so they just changed the face somehow, but still with special effects. But with the second Doctor, he was forced for breaking laws of time. With the breaking laws of time, the second Doctor was proud of breaking laws of time. He said some of them were for his own good. Eventually, he didn't like the regeneration, sadly.
Leading on to the third Doctor.
Third Doctor, it's very sad because Planet Spiders, he'd not been travelling for so long. Sarah Jane and kind just met him and just agreed to come in TARDIS with him. Well, he was exiled with his TARDIS, for starters. Exiled on Earth while he was working with UNIT.
So he was stuck on Earth.
Yeah, he was stuck. Using an old car called Bessie, but he used other cars. He used like a silver race car. He said that's exactly what he needs.
As the Doctor, he likes to travel, so I suppose if he can't use his TARDIS, he will turn to other forms of transport.
Yeah, and I like his number plate, Private Who Won. But he regenerated eventually after getting deadly radiation.
Okay, so that leads us on to Doctor number 4.
Number 4 spent 7 years, the longest time as being a Doctor.
That was Tom Baker.
It's just like John Pertwee spent 100 years as Doctor, but he's only spent 4, but Tom Baker spent more. It feels like it. Logopolis.
That was the final episode, wasn't it, for the Doctor as Tom Baker?
That was the second episode for the Master in his new form. Well,
Right.
probably his first, because what was really good about it was that the Master has met the Doctor in The Keeper of Traken, where he takes Tegan's father's body as the Master. Well, Tegan's father starts out with very long hair, but then the hair kind of cuts out, and he pushes the Doctor, and the Doctor regenerates. When they're running away from that white person, it was the Doctor all the time.
The white ghostly figure.
Yeah.
Right, so that leads us on to number 5, Peter Davison.
He went to the Androzani Minor a few times.
That's a planet, isn't it?
Yeah, alien planet. Although he did get some bat milk to cure Perry's poison.
Perry was his assistant. And
Yeah, because Peter Davison, before he had Tegan, didn't he? Adric died during a cyber invasion. And sadly, he has to regenerate.
so that takes us on to Doctor number 6, who was...
Maxil.
Sorry? Number 6?
He was Maxil from the 5th Doctor episode.
Ah,
However, this one was not related as he had 2 hearts and was a
Right.
Time Lord.
so this was Colin Baker.
Indeed. Sadly, he had brash clothes.
You didn't like his clothes, did you?
I did.
Oh,
But it suited him, but sadly you couldn't get a taste of his colour.
right.
But this was the only Doctor who fixed the chameleon circuit. Because we've seen him with the chameleon circuit on, with disguised as a piano, disguised as one big pot thing.
You mean the TARDIS? It's not himself that is disguised, it's the TARDIS, yeah.
Well, in Time in the Rani Part 1, they had the 7th Doctor opening. And everyone was, I bet the crowds, they're like, what's this new opening? They thought the 6th Doctor was still going to go on, but just a new opening. But when the TARDIS crash landed, they realised that the 7th Doctor was coming, and he was regenerating with a blue face.
So that leads us on to Sylvester McCoy.
Well, first his key stories were the Curse of Fenric. Fenric was the evil being that made people into Havemore, the
Right.
vampire-like servants. It grew on the Master. The Master nearly died when he got fangs, basically, and yellow eyes. Nearly killed him, a Time Lord. He was shocked.
Right, so shall we progress further to how he regenerated? So in 1996, there was a TV movie which starred the Doctor after Sylvester McCoy, which was Paul McGann.
Yeah.
And they showed the regeneration scene, didn't they?
Yeah.
So what did you think of the regeneration scene? Do you want to explain a little bit how it happened? How did he die?
Well, he first stepped out of the TARDIS. And I feel sorry for him because you're not allowed to go out and get shot, basically.
No, I don't think anyone would like that. Definitely not.
So he got shot by a street gang. He could have regenerated easily. Because he wasn't running out of regenerations, he had a few more regeneration left. But then what made the regeneration worse? He could have died, proper died, when his heart nearly got removed.
You mean, when you say proper died, you mean as in, it's possible for a Time Lord to die and not regenerate, isn't it? It's not like they can definitely live forever.
One heart gets taken out, there's no regeneration. That heart helps the regeneration.
Ah, right, so he needs both hearts. Moving on to how Paul McGann regenerated.
Well, no one knowed.
No one knew, you mean?
No one knew.
Until?
So, he wasn't very popular. The viewers didn't see him as a popular doctor.
Right.
And he was good.
Well, you liked him, didn't you?
I liked him.
You
But
did.
there were some scenes that the viewers didn't like, but I also didn't like.
Right.
So,
So moving on to the next one, which was the War Doctor.
the War Doctor.
So how did Paul McGann become John Hurt?
Well, this is 50th anniversary prequel had a scene where the 8th Doctor is trying to save a young piloter. So, and she does not like the Time Lord.
Because this was during the Time War, wasn't it? Where the
Well,
Time Lords were fighting the Daleks.
This wasn't. This was before Time War, but she said she
Right. So he tried to offer her help, but she wouldn't take it.
yeah. But so the Doctor didn't die somehow, but he must have been still dying.
Right. So he survived the impact of the crash.
And Cass died, the girl.
Right.
And the Sisterhood of Calm, who have appeared previously in Doctor Who, gave him a drink that made him regenerate into a young John Hurt, known as a War Doctor. But as he fought the Time War, he got older and older and older, and he didn't get nice suits, did he?
Well, I don't suppose he had time to go shopping when there was a war on. However, right, so John Hurt then had to turn into Christopher Eccleston. How did that happen?
He regenerated in the 50th anniversary when we see him leave. His body was worn out from the Time War. So
Right.
it was time to regenerate, and he knew it.
Right.
So he wanted the ears to be a bit more bare.
He did make a comment, didn't he? He made a comment
Yeah.
like, please don't make the ears so prominent or as big.
Night Doctor
Leading on to the Ninth
The
Doctor,
Ninth-
Christopher Eccleston.
still had problems with his ears. First fighting Autons to Daleks, which was upsetting. Regenerated after sucking in the Time Vortex. He
Right.
absorbed it, and it was just very strong for a Time Lord.
Right. So he, during Christopher Eccleston's time, he was recovering from the Time War, wasn't he? He was kind of recovering.
It was a bit of a hard time for him.
Right, so he absorbed the Time Vortex and then he couldn't take that, so he had to regenerate. And he regenerated into David Tennant.
Yes, because without
Your
Christopher
favourite Doctor?
Eccleston, Doctor Who would not be here right now,
That's true.
today. No, David Tennant, the best Doctor yet.
And now, how did he regenerate?
Well, from Sycorax to the Master, who sacrificed himself, helping the Doctor defeat the Time Lords. He just absorbed radiation from the radiation room.
Oh, right, so there's a radiation box and
And
radiation was leaking. So he absorbed that, but who did he do it for?
Wilfred Mott.
Wilfred Mott. He was the grandfather of his companion, his best friend.
Donna, who had a metacrisis field on her. After
Right.
she was part Time Lord, part human, and couldn't take it.
So she stopped being his companion because she couldn't cope with all that
and
knowledge.
had her normal life in Chiswick.
Right. So it was her grandfather whose life he tried to save and he regenerated. And he
But it's
regenerated.
partly because the doctor knew he was going to die. He was told by the Ood.
He was expecting it, wasn't he? He said there's a prophecy.
There's a prophecy. There's something and someone.
Right. So that leads us on to Matt Smith. How did David Tennant regenerate into Matt Smith? Well, sorry, we already know that. Now he's absorbed the radiation, and then he's had to save Wilfred Mott. So now he's become Matt Smith. Now, how did Matt Smith, regenerate into Peter Capaldi?
Now, this is the first regeneration when the TARDIS actually explodes into pieces when David Tennant regenerates into Matt Smith from a crack in the wall, which has been following through time, to Cybermen and Daleks. He regenerated after the Time Lord was given him regeneration, but he had a very, very long life.
So the Time Lords came back. Right, but they came back, though, to give him an extra life because he was about to die.
Well, they exactly came back. They came back through this crack in time.
Right. And then they gave him another life as he was dying, and he became Peter Capaldi.
Well, not exactly. He became younger again. They gave him to heal.
Right.
And then when Clara walks in, the TARDIS is all dirty. Fish fingers and custard, as usual.
That was
everywhere.
That was the 11th Doctor's favourite food, wasn't it? Fish fingers and custard. The first thing he ate.
And I was shocked when the 11th Doctor, to regenerate, he took his bow tie off, which he absolutely loved.
I think that clearly showed that this was time for him to now hang up his bow tie. He was hanging it up and moving on.
Because he doesn't want any other face to wear his own bow tie.
No, that's true. I would like to say a very big thank you to our young Doctor Who fan, Mohammed. I'm sure he would like to talk about Doctor Who till the cows or the Gallifreyans or Time Lords come home. But I'm afraid we're running out of time. So thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome, Africa.
It's been great to hear all about Doctor Who from your point of view as well, hearing your opinions and views. And I hope that's been a nice taster for our listeners, because we're all dying for that next series to start. You know, we can't wait till filming is finished and they can have series 8 on our screens.
Well, the second series 8.
Is it the second series 8?
The Doctor did the first original series 8.
Right, okay, let's call it series 8 of New Who. Is that okay?
Yeah, but I like to combine them.
Okay, right. So, thanks, Mohammed, for coming in, and thank you for listening to our Doctor Who special show. You've been listening to Awaz Community Radio. Our email address is awazradio@hotmail.com. You can ring us on 839-7857, catch us on Facebook, Awaz Community Radio, and tweet us, awazradio122. So are there any shows that you'd like us to focus on, have a special? And actually, if you'd like to contribute, do get in touch, and maybe you can be on the radio very soon, chatting all about one of your favourite subjects. My name is Saira. It's been a pleasure hosting a show about a TV show that I really enjoy myself as well, I have to admit, a bit of a geek, but it's a great show. So thank you very much for listening. Take care.